Life doesn't care about your excuses. The world doesn't stop when you're tired. It doesn't pity you when you're broke, and it doesn't cry with you when you fail. Reality is brutal. It will crush you if you let it. But here's the truth. A real man never complains. He doesn't waste his breath telling the world how unfair life is, because life is unfair by design. Complaining is weakness disguised as honesty. It's screaming into the void, hoping someone will care enough to fix your problems. But no one is coming. No one is going to lift you out of your darkness. No one is going to hand you success. And no one is going to respect a man who spends his life whining. When you open your mouth to complain, you're confessing that you've surrendered, that the world has beaten you. A real man doesn't bend like that. He takes the pain, the betrayal, the hardship, and he turns it into fuel. Every scar becomes a lesson. Every setback becomes proof that he's still in the fight. A man who refuses to complain is dangerous because he's unbreakable. That's the man the world respects, brave. It is the signal that you're alive, that you're in the fight, that you're doing something worth enduring. Most people run from pain, they hide from it, they pray it doesn't find them, and in doing so they miss the greatest teacher they will ever have. Every time you feel pain, it is a reminder that you are being shaped into something sharper, harder, and more resilient than the man you were yesterday. Pain does not exist to break you. It exists to carve you into the kind of man who can survive storms. A man who avoids pain avoids progress. He locks himself in a cage of comfort, thinking safety will save him, when in reality it suffocates him. The privilege of pain is that it forces you to grow in ways comfort never will. When you embrace pain, you claim power. You stop living like a victim who hides behind excuses, and you begin to see the struggle as a gift. Every heavy weight you lift, every heartbreak you endure, every failure that leaves you bleeding inside is proof that you are walking a path most men will never dare to walk. Weak men complain about the suffering in their lives, but strong men see it as the exact currency required to purchase greatness. Pain is the toll you pay to cross into strength, and if you refuse to pay it, you remain weak forever. When the world slaps you in the face with hardship, instead of asking why me, you should be saying, good, this is mine to carry. Because that is where transformation begins. There is no glory in comfort. There is no story of triumph in a life without struggle. The men you admire, the men who stand above the crowd, the men who leave legacies, they were forged in fire. They bled, they cried in silence, they endured loneliness, rejection, and defeat. What set them apart was not luck or some hidden advantage, but their willingness to see pain as a privilege. They chose to take what others ran from. While the weak curled up in self-pity, they stood tall, letting pain hammer them into steel. Every scar they carried became a reminder that they survived what others could not. If you strip away their pain, you strip away their greatness. That is why pain is not a curse. It is a crown. Pain gives meaning to victory. If success came easy, if every goal was achieved without sweat, without struggle, without heartbreak, it would mean nothing. You wouldn't respect it, you wouldn't value it, you wouldn't even care. The sweetness of victory exists only because of the bitterness of pain. Without nights of doubt, mornings of exhaustion, and days when you feel broken, the triumph would be empty. Pain sharpens your gratitude for the wins you earn. It makes you fight harder, it makes you protect what you achieve, and it makes you realize that nothing worth having will ever come without sacrifice. Pain is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become, and crossing it is the only way to transform. Most men live in denial of pain. They numb themselves with distractions, with shallow pleasures, with meaningless escapes, just so they don't have to confront reality, but those escapes rot them from the inside. Comfort kills slowly, like poison disguised as sweetness. Pain, on the other hand, awakens you. It makes you aware of your limits, and then it challenges you to break them. It forces you to face yourself, to confront your weaknesses, and to build the discipline that comfort will never give. Pain is a mirror. It shows you the truth of who you are, and then it gives you the choice to rise above or stay the same. That is why pain is a privilege. It refuses to let you lie to yourself. Every man carries a battle inside, but only those who embrace pain come out victorious. The weight on your shoulders, the pressure crushing your chest, the voice in your head telling you to quit, all of it is proof that you are in the arena, fighting where most men will never dare to enter. To hurt is to live, to endure is to rise. Every ache in your body, every sleepless night, every ounce of doubt is not punishment but preparation. Life is sharpening you, conditioning you, making you worthy of the things you claim you want. The weak will tap out, the complainers will cry about the unfairness, but the strong will smile through the suffering and say, "Good. This means I'm on the right path." A man who has never endured pain is a man who has never truly lived. He doesn't know his strength. He doesn't know his depth. He doesn't know what he's capable of surviving. Pain is the initiation into manhood, the proving ground that separates talkers from doers. It strips away illusions and forces you to stand naked in front of yourself. When you survive pain, when you refuse to bow to it, you discover a version of yourself you didn't know existed. You unlock courage, discipline, resilience, and power that no book, no speech, no mentor could ever give you. That is the privilege of pain. It reveals to you the warrior hidden beneath your skin. Pain is the only thing that keeps you honest. It never lies. It never flatters. It never pretends. It tells you exactly where you are weak and demands that you fix it. And if you refuse, it will keep returning until you either break or build yourself into someone unshakable. That is why real men welcome pain. They don't seek comfort. They don't beg for ease. They don't chase the soft life. They welcome the grind. They welcome the battle. They welcome the hardship because they know on the other side of pain is freedom. Freedom to walk into any storm without fear. Freedom to carry any weight without breaking. Freedom to know that nothing in this world can defeat them. Pain is the price of that freedom, and paying it is the highest privilege a man can ever have. The moment you decide to stop making excuses is the moment your life begins. Excuses are the language of weak men, the comfort blanket of failure, the poison that kills dreams slowly while disguising itself as truth. Every time you blame your circumstances, your parents, your boss, your country, or even luck, you are handing over your power. You are telling the world that your life is not in your control, and that is the most dangerous lie you could ever believe. A real man refuses to lie to himself like that. He knows that whether he succeeds or fails, it all rests on his shoulders. Taking responsibility is not a burden. It is liberation, because when you realize it's all on you, you also realize no one can stop you. Excuses are chains, but responsibility is the key to break them. Life is not supposed to be fair. No man was promised equal starting lines. Some are born rich, some poor, some strong, some weak, some in freedom, some in chaos. That is reality. You don't control the cards you're dealt, but you control how you play them. The man who makes excuses will stare at his bad hand forever, complaining about the unfairness of the game, while the man who takes responsibility will play that same hand like a champion and win. The difference is not luck, it's mindset. Responsibility forces you to stop wasting energy crying about things you can't change and start focusing on the things you can. Excuses keep you trapped in the past, but responsibility propels you into the future. That's why men who carry responsibility always rise higher than men who make excuses. When you take responsibility, you eliminate the option of quitting. Excuses always give you an escape route, a reason to justify weakness, a backdoor to failure. But responsibility slams that door shut. If it's your fault, then it's also your fight. If it's your mistake, then it's also your opportunity to correct it. This mindset turns you into a man who cannot be stopped, because you no longer depend on outside forces to save you. You stop saying the economy is bad, and you start saying I will find a way. You stop saying nobody believes in me, and you start saying I don't need them to. Responsibility is ultimate power because it keeps the control in your hands, while excuses leave your life at the mercy of others. Excuses sound comforting, but they rot your soul. They keep you weak because they trick you into believing that you're helpless. And once you believe you're helpless, you act helpless. That is why excuses are so dangerous. They kill ambition before it even has a chance to grow. A man who refuses to make excuses is forced to act. He looks at his failures not as injustice, but as evidence of where he must improve. Responsibility doesn't let you hide. It doesn't let you procrastinate. It doesn't let you run. It demands action. It demands progress. And in that pressure, you forge strength. The very thing that excuses protect you from pain, challenge, accountability, is the exact thing that responsibility uses to make you powerful. That's why the men who rise to greatness are the ones who accept blame while everyone else points fingers. The truth is simple. Excuses are easy, responsibility is hard. That's why most men choose excuses. It's easy to blame your failures on your boss, your government, or your upbringing. It's easy to tell yourself that the reason you're not successful is because the system is against you. But it takes courage to say, if I'm not where I want to be, it's because of me. Weak men cannot handle that kind of honesty. They would rather live in a fantasy where life cheated them rather than admit that they failed to do the work. But strong men, real men, stare into that mirror and accept responsibility because they understand that truth, no matter how painful, is the only foundation for change. If you live on excuses, you live on lies. But if you live on responsibility, you live in freedom. Responsibility forces you to grow. Once you accept that every outcome is your responsibility, you start demanding more of yourself. You start pushing harder, learning faster, building stronger habits, because you know no one else is going to carry you. Responsibility sharpens your mind like a blade. It makes you disciplined, focused, and relentless. Excuses weaken you, they make you lazy, they convince you to accept less than your potential. But when you take full ownership, you stop tolerating weakness. You hold yourself accountable for every action, every choice, every failure, and every victory. That level of accountability transforms you into a man who is unshakable because you know everything is under your control. A man who takes responsibility cannot be manipulated, cannot be broken, and cannot be defeated because he has nothing to lean on but himself. And that is enough. When a man takes responsibility, he becomes a leader. Excuse makers cannot lead because they are always looking for someone else to blame. No one respects a man who hides from his failures, but everyone respects the man who owns his mistakes and turns them into lessons. Leadership is not about perfection, it's about accountability. When you take responsibility, you set the standard for everyone around you. You show them that it's possible to rise above circumstances, that it's possible to carry weight without breaking, that it's possible to own your life fully. Responsibility doesn't just change you, it inspires others. It creates trust, respect, and influence. Excuses isolate you, but responsibility empowers you. That's why the men who choose responsibility are the men who lead armies, build empires, and leave legacies. They are the ones remembered while the excuse makers are forgotten. Responsibility is the highest form of strength. It means you're willing to carry the blame when things go wrong, to shoulder the burden when times get tough, and to stand firm when everyone else is looking for a way out. It's not glamorous, it's not easy, but it is the essence of manhood. Excuses are the path of children. They cry, they point fingers, they wait for someone else to fix their mess, but a man knows better. He knows that no matter how unfair life is, no matter how heavy the weight, no matter how brutal the fight, it's his responsibility to rise, and in that decision, he becomes untouchable. Responsibility is what transforms ordinary men into warriors, into kings, into legends. It is the mark of a man who refuses to be a victim, the mark of a man who commands respect, and the mark of a man who owns his destiny completely. In the end, the truth is simple. Life is hard, and no one is coming to save you. Pain will test you, and responsibility will define you. These are not punishments. They are privileges. Pain is the fire that forges steel, and responsibility is the weight that builds kings. Together, they separate the weak from the strong, the boys from the men, the forgotten from the remembered. A real man does not complain. He does not blame the world. He does not beg for comfort. He takes pain as a gift. He takes responsibility as a duty, and he uses both to carve out a life of strength, honor, and greatness. The men who complain will fade into history, forgotten, nameless, and weak. But the men who embrace pain and carry responsibility will write their names in stone. That is the legacy of those who refuse to bend, those who refuse to break, those who never make excuses. Real men are not victims of their circumstances. They are masters of them. And if you want to be one of them, you must stop hiding, stop whining, stop waiting, and start owning every second of your life. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time, and may this message burn in your heart as a reminder of what you are capable of becoming. God bless you. Stay strong and never forget. Real men never complain.